we're with Hugh McKiernan, and he has a very tragic and personal story to tell. Hugh, possibly before we mention the tragic circumstances in 1943, maybe you go through your family life that led up to your sisters having to go into the convent.
Well, my mother died on the 1st of August 1937, and her best friend said that she'd take the two sisters into the house, into her home, as there was no woman in our house, and she'd look after them, and they could go to the. She was a Church of Ireland Protestant woman, so they were very pally, and they could go to the church, go to the mass, and go to confession, go where they liked, and no problem there. So that's why they ended up in the
Convent.
Convent. And their sin was, apparently, that they went to the Church of Ireland school.
Because Ireland was a completely different country at that time.
Oh, it was very different, indeed.
And it was dominated,
thank God,
of course, by the church.
Yeah.
And the circumstances were different.
Yeah.
Farming was a predominant industry, especially in rural Ireland. So you, of course, lived beside Milltown, is that correct?
No, Drumard. We were born and reared near between Milltown and Butlers Bridge, but we moved house, and that's why we went to the Church of Ireland school. After a few years, when my mother died, shortly after that. Yeah. And
then of course, with your mother dying, that must have had quite an impact on your family. And
it certainly had. It was like a bomb, same as a bomb exploding on the Rough Army. It blew it sky high. It never was the same since. Never.
Of course, rural Ireland that time, there was probably a good connections within the family. I heard you mention about the Protestant neighbours, and you were saying that they volunteered to look after your family after your mother died.
They did. She did. Yes. She did indeed.
And of course you were saying then that...
that was their sin.
And maybe you go through the circumstances of how your sisters had to go to the convent in Cavan. What led up to your sisters having to go into the convent?
Dad don't say. I don't say at all. Once the mother died, the guard came out and brought them away into the convent, which I regarded as a concentration camp. They never got outside of it again for 6 years, to burn to death.
And even your father, who would have been in a position to look after yourself and your brother and your sisters, they really had no say whenever they decided to take the sisters out of the family unit.
Oh, he had no say at all. No. Well, he wouldn't be capable of looking after the sisters anyway, I suppose, because there was no woman in the house and looked after the only children, very young baby or young 8 and 6 around that time. And
the fire took place in 1943. The anniversary is coming up now, the 23rd of February. The anniversary, I think it's the 77th anniversary of the event. And between your mother died and the fire, what was the circumstances? Did you get an opportunity to visit your sisters?
Oh yes, I did.
Run through how that impacted on you?
Oh, I did. We could visit them. I mean, you got to the church and got to the convent, and they opened the door and let you in and put you down on a seat inside the convent. And you met the sisters come out and sat down and talked to them, but no way where to get out. So when your father and yourself and your brother called to see them, you weren't allowed to bring them up to town? Or? Oh no, not at all, no.
But that was a rule of that was a sort of a church rule, or
it was a church rule. Must have been.
And the poor Clares, of course, they were the order in the convent.
That's right.
And how did you find, or your sort of knowledge of how they handled the situation? The subsequent reports have indicated that both the nuns weren't very good in were the cause of a lot of the children dying. I
met a few children afterwards. Must have been at the I think it was at the went in for the funeral, and I met a few of the survivors, and they told me that the nuns were very cruel, and it was most of them were all right, but there was two of them, and particularly one of them, and she used to take out a strap, come around with a strap, and take a little girl out of the bed during the night, and her crime was she wet the bed, and she was only 2-year-old, and she got the strap.
Goodness.
She got the strap.
So there was while religion and the religious orders are supposed to show mercy and well, there was very little.
You see, the very nice place, they're very nice people. If you go into a daily and to be educated there and go home at night, But when you go into an institution, they're very different. It's a concentration camp, as I call it. That's what I call it.
And of course you said that only some were like that, but I think some other reports in different parts of the country were indicating that it wasn't just that particular order. It seemed to be part of the religious institution wasn't good, that there were good ones and bad ones, and the bad ones seemed to be very cruel.
Oh, they were. So bad. They were very cruel. They were. And they were good and bad in it. But Jesus, these two anyway, with the slaps, they couldn't tolerate that.
Of course, you were with your father then. Can you recall what impact the fact of the death of your two sisters had on your father in subsequent years?
Yeah, it did, of course. He started well, we were poor people, but I suppose he drank a lot after then.
Did he ever talk to you about it?
No, he never talked, no. No, he never talked about it. But I went away anyway, and I went over to England,
All right, and your brother, did you have much contact with your brother over the time, that whether anniversaries, did you call to the area, to commemorate them a year after?
I used to go out to the, many times out to the graveyard where they're buried, out there, all right, say a prayer for them, all right, but that was it,
And were you close to your brother, or how did your brother cope with the?
He didn't cope very well with it. He went off his head altogether.
He never did.
Yeah, he did. He went off his head altogether. When he's been interviewed on television, he said, every morning I wake up I see those smiling faces. And that was only a few years back, before he died. Yeah.
So it had a very traumatic effect on him.
I remember that.
No, he never was over.
He never got over. So I got over that. I said, I'm not going to fall into that trap. I'm going to let that get a grip on me,
And then you said that you moved out of the area, and where did you start working first?
Working first? In the Drumard. Drumard. When going out walking, I went to, where the hell is it? I went up to Lords across Tony. I went up there for 2 years. Up there on a farm work,
Of course, farming was completely different. They had horses.
It was all done by horses.
So there was a lot of very hard manual
there was.
involved in farming.
You get up in the morning, you make 4 or 5 cows by hand. The boss would be there, and his mother would be there, and they'd be making their share as well. and we'd go in and get the breakfast then, and back to the pony and cart and have it ready, and I used to go to the creamery, bring them into the creamery. These big heavy cans, you had to lift them up.
Yeah, there were steel cans.
Yeah, steel cans,
They
yeah.
weren't aluminium cans.
Yeah.
And of course, it was documented that some farmers didn't treat the people that worked that well, and some of them had to sleep in out offices. The food wasn't good, and of course the money wasn't good, and the hours were very long. Did you experience that, or had you?
No. They found them kind enough now. Those people, they kind enough. The hours were long, and the work was hard, and that you were young, you didn't mind at the time, you know.
And then I heard you saying earlier that you went to Bordnamona. Of course, it was different at that time too.
Oh God, it was very different at that time. There was no machinery in it at all at that time. You go into a lorry, and the lorry dropped us off at about 5 or 6 miles out, and that was the last of the machines you saw until the lorry came to Haven again, brought them back to the home.
And what?
They had a slawn, you had to dig the turf out.
So it was like you'd see people digging their own personal plot. You had the lawn, and then you just dug it, and then did somebody else come and stack it? And then it was collected in trailer and brought to.
No, it was spread out in the bank. There was two. There was the lad catching the turf as well. So when you fired up out of the hole, the fella catches it, you put it in a barra. He spread it out around there now.
And did you stay locally? Did you stay locally to where you were working on the bog?
Oh no, so I was living in.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was just like the army. It was maybe a dozen of us in the canteen, in the camp. Each camp, a whole lot of camps around.
And there would have been hundreds of men working.
They were there from every county in Ireland, from Donegal to Kerry.
And did you strike up a good friendship with some of them?
I did. I never had any problem with any of them. Never.
And the social side of things, did you get home to see your father or your brother? How often did you get home?
Oh, I might come home in the winter time. All right. In the few times, 3 or 4 times, you know.
And employment was scarce, and I suppose Bordnamona was one of the best employers.
It was, yes. The employment was scarce at the time. Oh, it was best of all.
And did you take the route that quite a number of people took in Ireland, the route to either the city of Dublin or over to England?
I looked in the paper, and I saw a job going for in Dublin, the Horse and Hound Hotel in Wicklow, out there. A very busy place it was. That's just after the war, you know, in 47, and very, very busy. And I was good. I was good at maths, you know, counting money. Right. And that's it was in my favour. Nobody didn't think twice about it. I hadn't twice about it. I knew it immediately.
And I heard you saying that it was one of the first roadhouses in Ireland.
Oh no, the Silver Tassie was.
Oh, the Silver Tassie.
Yeah, I went from there 4 years in that, and the manager was gone out, and the foreman was gone out, and what happened I don't know, but and they went down on their knees for me to take it over and be manager in it, in the Horse and Hound. Wanted me after 4 years. Managing, he was earnest and was staying, you know. And
the type of work was completely different. And how did you adjust to that work? Because you were used to with working on the farm before going to Bordnamona. That was a quite a physical amount of work.
I picked it up very quickly. No problem.
And you were saying that you were good with maths and everything.
I was fast too.
And that allowed you an opportunity to use your mathematical skills.
Oh yes.
In that job.
Yeah, that's right.
And so when they asked you to stay on, did you consider that, or what? How did you feel?
No, I didn't, because it was, and it wasn't. You didn't get the time off. You'd be in the hotel. You worked all hours. It was it wasn't union, a non-union house, and these two fellas started picked up. They worked in the Royal Hotel in Bray, and there were two Corkmen, and one went as manager and the other went as foreman. And the manager fella was all right, a nice fella. And when the foreman got sacked, I think, about himself, he asked me to come to that, and he to get his own back in them, you know. In fact, he was let go and out now.
Ask him, how did you meet me?
Of course, you can hear the voice in the background. We're joined by Jonn Clancy, and he's just home from America. And Jonn is very, very well known in the Cavan area, of course, with his premises in Butlers Bridge.
Yes, indeed.
And he's been a lifelong friend of yours. Maybe because before we switched on the camera, we heard you talking about working with the horses and various things. So you obviously have a long history of knowing Jonn
yes.
and working with Jonn.
Mm.
Maybe you talk about some of your life's experiences with Jonn.
Yeah, certainly. John's father and mother had a farm up at Derry Vale, Milton, Belturbert, and they owned the farmer there at them, and that's how I started working with him. We were living in the house alongside it, belonging to Jonn and the family, and we started working there, and had a horse there, and it was wild enough. So we got the hay and all this kind of thing, and we worked. That was how we met him.
So he would be a lifelong friend of yours.
Oh yes, God yes, oh yes, certainly, yeah. And he asked me, he says, pouring rain someday, and how was it coming? You come in. He says, there's not a sign of rain on you. I juked the drops, says I. Remember that? I've forgotten all about that. You told me that years ago.
Yeah, how do you see out in the rain? You can use the drops. Yeah.
And of course in Cavan we have quite a few drops.
Yeah.
One of the sisters came out of the convent and looked for her other sister, went back in.
All right, Jonn.
Oh yes.
Just prompt me here because while we have to get different parts of the story. Maybe we'll go back to the period of time that your sisters were in the convent, and when one went to go back in. Maybe Jonn, maybe you'd recall what that particular and.
He used to tell me, one of your sisters came out.
Yes.
And said, "Where's my sister?"
Yeah.
And they said she didn't come out. And she looked around, and one of the firemen grabbed her. And had her clothes in the stand.
Yeah.
And she went back in.
Yeah.
And never came back out.
Never came back. That was the last one. Yeah, that's true. That happened.
Yeah. I just thought we'd fill in that as part
so
of
that added to the tragedy. Your sister tried to save your
that's right.
sister.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
And that would have been the cause of her demise as well.
It was indeed.
And on the course, what we mentioned earlier about the nuns contributing to it, the fire service wasn't.
There's no fire brigade in Cavan at that time at all. There's no fire brigade in Cavan at all. That I went away for hours, I don't know how long, from Drumard or somewhere like that. They had to come. And yet they were after building a cathedral in St. Philip's. Over £1 million, I suppose, spent on it. The ladders, unfortunately, were gone from there. It was finished. And it sticks and pieces of string, you might say. They had nothing to ladders to go up there. And the children were all at I was told by people outside afterwards, the children were at the windows and they shouting, "Save us, save us, save us." And the nuns wouldn't open the door. They wouldn't let the children out, or they wouldn't let the people in. And their story was, they were in the night dresses.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, having that political correctness
and
gone
there wasn't as many rough ones around then as there is now.
And that would have contributed to I think it was 35 children died and one adult died. So
That's right. Old lady, there was only an old lady who looked after the children. She died already. She got none of the nuns are burned.
And would the doors have been locked at night to prevent maybe children from getting out? Or?
Oh, they'd be all locked up. I'd say so. I don't know now. I don't know.
And how did they break the news to you? I'm sure it must have been difficult enough because you'd have been quite close to your sisters when your mother was alive. You were growing up with them and playing with them. How was the news broken to you?
That said, I went to work for a man there. I forgot that. I went for a man, Fitzpatrick, for 6 months. I think it was for a year. And the fire happened in Jonn at that time. Anyway, and he told me this morning. He says there was a big fire in Cavan last night, and convent is burned to the ground. He says. So of course I knew that because I started crying. So I knew very well. So that was it. That was the first I knew. There was no contact, no apology, no sympathy, no anything from anybody else.
There's quite a few photographs of the funeral service. Were you able to attend, or were you allowed to attend?
I came in by the time I got in for the funeral was over. Believe it or not. I wasn't told about it, you see. But I didn't know about it. Didn't know a thing about it.
And
it was all closed up.
And I presume your father was there, of course.
No, he wasn't. I don't think he was there. We didn't know about it. We didn't know about the funeral. Never knew about the funeral. No, not at all. He wasn't there.
And of course, the inquiries were probably kept. The information probably wasn't let out at the time.
Oh, not at all. He wasn't. Well, I described it as a whitewash and a cover up, and it was I described it as equal to the concentration camps they had in Europe, the convent, and the abuse like children got and all that, and no help, no.
But it must have been extra difficult for your father because when you were saying earlier that a Protestant family close to you and that you'd grown up with and neighbours had volunteered to look after your sisters after your mother died. Yeah. And that seemed to be frowned upon by the church at the time.
Oh, it was, yeah. And yet the first school I went to, the Corcandas, the bridge at Carrot Strawberries, Lexic, they call it Corcandas School. The first school I went to there was 100 pupils going to school, and we walked to it. And there was about 75 Catholics and 25 Protestants. And that was all right, because it was a Catholic school. But you couldn't go to a Protestant school. That was a cardinal sin.
Right.
You see, the boot was another foot then.
And that was the teaching of the church at the time?
That was it, that was the teaching at the time.
And of course, you probably feel that if your Protestant neighbour family that had volunteered to look after your sisters, if they hadn't been removed from forcibly removed and put into the convent, your sisters would have been
alive and probably married today and have families, and it'd be a different life for me, I tell you.
And of course, your brother, you were saying your brother was affected and your father
was affected. He was indeed, yeah.
And you would feel that you were saying that you're 97 years of age and it still has an impact. So, for people who make decisions, they should be mindful of the impact of their decisions on people even after that number of years.
Yes, that's true.
Because people they feel that they're making a decision for the good, but sometimes it mightn't necessarily be a good decision.
Well, I never recommend it to anybody to go into an institution again. Like that, no way.
And of course the education that you received at the Protestant school, that would have been probably as good as any school.
It was far better.
Yeah, far better, yeah.
The teacher went away, Spain this year, Germany next year, living here. She came back home, she told us all about it. about how they're growing tomatoes in the windows in Germany and all that, and no wasteland or nothing like that, and tell us all about it and bring us back melons and things we never saw. We never saw in our lives. We never saw them. No, not at all.
And
But another thing, and I went down to Jonn Clancy. I used to cycle from here down to Cavan, over 90 miles, 92 miles over the door. I cycled no problem. I was a fit man at that time.
Goodness, right?
Aye.
And the roads weren't.
And the roads weren't as good. And I went down to, and I stopped in the hotel in Belturbet, the sisters, Seven Sisters Hotel.
McKiernan.
Yeah, McKiernan. And I had a bicycle there, and I cycled on from there the next morning on the next evening. It was on to Ballyconnell to look out for you and your father and all that family. And you weren't there. You were gone to London at the time. I think it was 52. I think it was.
52, I went, yeah.
Yeah. See, their memory's good still.
Very good.
Yeah.
We were fortunate that we were able to speak to Jonn about his life, and it was very interesting, and his world travels and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when you meet up with Jonn that you're able to recall, because your memory is so good, you're able to recall a lot of the different things that you experienced together, of course, with
Oh yes.
earlier, and then in subsequent work. And did I hear you saying that you worked in England for a
I did, yeah.
Maybe you'd run through how that had been a completely different experience.
It had been a different experience. So I worked in the Embassy Hotel in York City for 6 months, and I saw a job in the paper, and I saw a factory out in the beside the Mace, the Bakelite and stuff like that, you know, what the telephone receiver is made of. And you put it into machines and powder, and 12-hour shifts. Worked 12-hour shifts. I was 16 years of age at the time. 12
16
hours.
years of
Yeah.
age.
16 years, and the English man used to say, hear them saying to one, that chap's from Ireland, he must be only about 14. I always looked a bit younger than I was.
Right.
And I was, yeah, 14.
And the Irish, in some places, wouldn't have been treated that well.
No, there were no Irish or blacks welcome in boarding houses. But the vacancies up, no vacancy for them.
And when you were working, presumably it was digs that you stayed in.
Oh, it was, yeah. I was lucky enough. I never experienced it, I must say. I was lucky enough.
And there were, of course, unfortunately, a lot of Irish had to go to England in the 50s and 60s because there was no employment in Ireland.
No employment, not at all, no. And there's plenty of employment here now, and the nurses and the doctors, and they won't pay them, so they go off go to England and Australia and America, never over.
Yeah, they're educating them.
They're educating them for abroad.
Going abroad, yeah.
And they're well educated. See, my time was growing up, there was education. You never got a chance at all. You never got a chance at all, the education.
Matt was very popular in Belturbet. His brother, Matt, very well known in Belturbet.
Of course, Jonn is talking here about your brother. Did he stay mostly at home, or did he travel?
No, he did. Well, he went to England in latter years, then he did. He went to England for a while. He worked in the Wolverhampton, the tyre place. And he came up, and I came home and he's like a wreck, like a ghost. The never was much made around him anyway.
But you were saying that the impact of your sisters that had a bigger effect on him, so that must have been difficult for him with work, and that had been on his mind all the time.
No, it was, it must have been, it was, of course, yeah. Indeed it was. It was, certainly was.
Yeah, and so after England, what sort of employment route did you take?
I started working with John's father there that time, and there Vahel. And I worked there, and then I went to Fitzpatrick's to work for a farm. And then I went to Boardnamona, and from Boardnamona to my new college. You have a big book, have you? College, all the jobs I went, and nobody took me by the collar and brought me along. He took me into it either. You had to get on your own steam.
And of course, as we mentioned before, that you had a range of different employments, but you must have had a very good work ethic that you fitted in quite well into all the places that you worked in.
Yeah, I've never had a problem. I fit in quite well.
And
I wasn't afraid of work. And I was agreeable. And I never bothered about raising trouble or anything like that. No.
And you were saying that
the harder it came, the better I liked it. I was fit at the time.
And did your father influence you? You know, you grew up with your father. How much of an influence was your father? Presumably he was working on the farm or walking around the Milltown Belturbet area. You would have witnessed that, so you would have had a good schooling in working in the sort of tradition that he was working in.
Ah, yes. Oh, I admired him. He worked hard. He worked hard all his life. He worked hard all his life. And he's got on well with him. And except it was particularly Matt went off the head, and he went drinking, and he got so bad that I called in to see the father. I used to call in to see the father. I used to go down at Christmas morning, and back at Christmas and Stephen's Day, and then I worked the next day in the bar. And it was hard going, all right. That's if there's
and of course, Seckling, at that time of the year, mightn't necessarily you had to all sorts of different conditions.
Oh, no, the month of September usually. Yeah, I cycled down there, you know. I cycled. I like to see the country. You couldn't see the country come by a car or a bus, or driving a car, you won't see it, you know.
Right. And of course, at that time, in the 50s, Cavan was quite good at the football. Did you have much of an interest in?
Oh yes, very keen in the football. Remember that time the train down the Three Russell in the John's place, down in Ballyconnell, the one all end there.
So John would
43 my first all Ireland I went to.
John would be claiming that he's responsible for Cavan winning All Ireland.
Yeah, 43, yeah.
I think one was in 40. Well, that was of course in New York in 47, but 52 I think was the last year
47
that Cavan won. So was it on the? Did you play sport or had you time?
Oh, I did. I was very keen on football. But unfortunately, when the mother died, I finished the football. Hard work. Sunday, Monday. There was no time for football. I played with football with there was Liam McGuire and Desi McGuire, and two of them. They won All Irelands after.
And at that time, when people moved to England to work or moved to Dublin or wherever they might have moved, had you an opportunity to be able to send any money back? People did rely on people even going to America. They were able to send some. Were you able to help and support your father in the early days?
No, I didn't send any money back to him. I used to send money, not until I came out down here. And bought a place down there, and I used to send money back for Dublin here. And I made a mistake, and I think it turned Matt into an alcoholic.
Right.
I had to stop it, and I brought him. I brought him up to here. His father was in St. Phelim's down in the county home. He scalded his leg, and I said, I must call down to see him. And I called down to see him, and I came in, and I went in to see him, and I brought him out. Kitty and Sheila, two aunts of Peter's. They were very nice people in the city. Kitty, she was a saint. Brother was a saint. And we brought him up here, and for a holiday for a fortnight, and they wouldn't let him go back. He's free from 5th of April 1970. He was here for 6 years until he died in the Buffon hospital here. And why, the reason was why he told them, Kitty and Sheila, that it wasn't a bottle of hot water, a bottle of Scottish like it all. It was Matt the Scottish throwing it over him, throwing hot water over him and coming in drunk at 3 o'clock in the morning. All that, you know, so. And he says, I didn't tell you. He says, I don't want to fight. Don't want to hear them fighting. So the women heard that, they wouldn't let him go back at all.
Yeah, so while you
so it was a rough and smooth.
You moved out and you had a good career with different work, and it still was an element of tragedy within the family, probably resulting from the earlier difficulties that all of you experienced.
Oh, indeed it was. Oh, sure. My mother had a live, God knows, it'd be very different. Yeah.
And was your mother a native to the area?
She was, yeah. She was indeed. The father was from Killishandra. She was from down in Innismore, Butlers Bridge. Down to Cavan.
And you said that she was quite a young woman when she...
She was only 40. 40 years of age. And she died. I don't know what happened to her at all. She said to me, she used to bring me along with her into the hospital. We used to walk into the cabin, walked everywhere in those days. She was not nothing of it at all. And she said, the doctor said to her, operation, and she says, he won't give me the nurse, the knife anyway. She said, but I think she died, that she got a lot of hardship too. Hardship, you know. Yeah.
But of course, a lot of women did die young at that time, and it left it very difficult for families because the mother being the mainstay of the home and keeping the home together.
Yeah.
Which you witnessed, because when your mother passed away, it almost split you up in a way.
Oh, I did, yeah. And she was born and reared in my hoods over there in Innismore and Baltover. I was saying one day, she was going out with a bundle of hair on her back. What I told you what the women went through in those days. Cut it off the hair, off a pike of hair, and she cut a lump of a cast of it, as they call it, and tied it in a rope, putting a rope on the shoulder, go out to further cattle, and this cow attacked her and had her down goring her, only for a man coming along. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were hardy people.
But animals were a major part of the farm and life, because apart from the cattle for the milk and various other things, the horses, they probably consume more food than some of the family members.
Yes.
So they had to be looked after, because without the horses there was no crops or no nothing.
No, that's true. That's true. They consumed a lot of food.
And even at your young age, you worked with the horses?
I did. I worked with a horse, we did, a mad horse. Jonn Clancy's horse. He used to go up on the hind legs like that in the cart of hay, and you see the nettles. And if he got stuck on that, so we're out. I remember I was Tommy Shannon, and myself. And he had trains that horse, and it was a quiet old thing, the quietest thing in the world. And the mistake we made, I used to build the hay on the horse, and he threw the hay up to me on the cart, you see. And we built it the way up and then rope it down. And we did his first, and left his horse there, nibbling at the grass, eating grass. And we waited for my fella, the Irish draft, and didn't bother about him until late in the day it went on. And next thing, like that, he took off and went across the field, and the far side there was a big drop away down, out there, the Guinea Road, I think it was what they called it, out there, in Lake Valley. Oh, he went to Valley, But in any case, old Tommy Shannon made great work. Took off the old hat and was waving the hat at him, and the old horse went across the cart and all went on the side. And you could see his 4 feet go like that. 4 feet. 4 days and time out.
Of course, the cars were very valuable at the time, because, as I said, without those, they were used for the transport. And you said that you went to the creamery to bring the milk with the horses, brought the milk to the creamery and.
Oh yeah, in a different place, but that was a pony though.
Oh, that was a pony.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
in Crostony.
Oh, in Crostony, right. And on the milking, of course, every cow was milked by hand.
Oh, by hand, yeah. There was no milking machines in those days. And you're on a foot and a stool, three-legged chuck, and a seat on it. And they either got a belt with a shitty tail across the face, or maybe a kick. Another, and you only put every pint of milk would go into the gallon, put into another gallon over here to save it from being spilled out. You know what I was saying?
Of course, yeah. If the cow kicked the bucket in a sense, that'd be a big loss because.
Oh, it would. Oh, well, if you had it full of milk, if you had it, that's why you only took a certain amount of milk at a time. Milk and dribs and drabs. No, not all of them. All of them. There's always one or two of them known as kickers, you know.
And bringing them in, presumably for all the animals, it wasn't like now where you have silage and everything. All the grass had to be cut and saved and put in cocks of hay and so there's been quite an amount of work.
Oh, but
people don't realise now.
Not at all, for God's sake, not at all. Men and women walked out outside then.
And I was talking to somebody there recently, and they were talking. We were down at the Johnstown Castle outside, or in Wexford, and it had all the agricultural equipment from the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. And, and the thresher was one of the larger items that you get on a farm. Was there much grain reared in your area?
No, not so much, no. Just a field of oats probably or something like that. No, that's not, no. It was down in Wexford or Clare or all the grain country.
It'd been mostly just hay and potatoes and
potatoes, yeah.
And just a small vegetable.
That's right, yeah. That's right.
Well, that's is there anything else now that maybe
in the convent? Was there any Protestants in the convent? In the Cavan at the time?
In the convent?
Huh?
In the convent?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. I don't know. I don't think so.
And we recorded the anniversary, and it was a very, very sad situation. They put all the children's names on a little white label on the railings outside the church.
Yeah.
And for some unknown reason, somebody came along and took all the labels off the railings.
Really?
And somebody came back again then and put another set of to commemorate the younger people. There's still people in the Cavan area that were very reluctant to deal with it or to talk about it for some unknown reason. That why would somebody want to take the white little velvet labels off the railings and the names of the children?
I never heard that. What is that?
That was I think it was the 75th anniversary of the death of the children, and the labels were removed from outside the little metal railings outside the chapel, and somebody came along and removed the labels. And again, it split the community because, like you know, some people would have had very close allegiance to people who died there, or have memories of them, and for people to almost like you hear of people desecrating graves and everything, desecrating the memory of the children that died. People were horrified that would take place.
True, yes,
you know, 75 years later.
Yeah, it's sad, all right. Yeah, it is. It is sad, all right. Now, there was a commemoration down there. Somebody rang me up and invited me down to come down to it. I never went back down to it at all. Cavan, they were going to put a plaque up or something outside the convent, outside it, and the names on it and all that. And they're going down. I said, no, I'm not going down. And but I went down there. But years ago, I went down there, and I went in through the convent, and I went all through it, and I went through it, and I saw one nun, and she passing in the distance, and so I said, there was this where the chapel for the children. Yes, it is. He said, oh, I says, I heard a lot about this place. Oh, did she? Yes, it says. She kept going.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you know what over the years, would you have spoken to many people? Would much information have come out about what they said? You know, that the nuns didn't want the children to come out because they were in their night clothes. What was, you know, when you spoke to people, was that the sort of general view? And then, as you said, the fire brigade wasn't as well equipped as it could possibly have been. Like, there have been quite a few factors contributed to the large death of all the children.
Yeah, yes. And nobody ever asked me much about it at all. Just I said, just I said to you, that's all I knew about it.
And you know, with you carrying it your lifetime, you know, you grew up with your sisters, you played with your sisters, and then the tragic loss, and nobody really discussed or
no.
If somebody had a broken fingernail, to be sent to therapy now.
They would, yeah.
No therapy then.
Yeah. Not at all. Oh, neither wasn't. I had a whittle on that thumb, a whittle. You know what a whittle was? A whittle is. And I went to a man, and he was a Protestant man. He was at the creamery this morning. I was only 15 years of age, and I was crying in bed with a pain where swelled up. It was all swollen, and all little dots and all a different colour on it. And I went to Malikwa, was his name, and he's a Protestant man. And I said, I heard about him, and I showed it to him, and I says, oh, that's a whittle, all right. And he said, come up to me, said the ceiling. What time? I said, Mr. Man? Oh, 4 o'clock, said. And what you bring you up for? What, I want to bring a present? Oh, no, I don't want anything at all for it. He's a herbalist, you know. And he said, well, I said, I'll have to bring us up something. Well, he says, if you're passing by a shop, get a section of honey. Section of honey was in 4 little square like that. 4 little bits of timber in it. And it cost the magic sum of 10 pence. 10 pence, old money. So I got it, and because this will be good now, not to see him spreading the honey on it, you know. This will be worth seeing. So we took in this Pond's cream jar, took the lid of it, piece of cloth, had a roll of white cloth, cut a strip of it, and spread this white cream on it, you know. And he put it on that thumb, and from that minute it touched the thumb, and there wasn't a pain from that day to this.
So
the next morning he says, you take off the next morning, take the cloth off it, and repeat what I'm after doing, what the price bit on it. I took it off, there was a hole in it. The whole root came out of it. And the most painful thing I ever had. A herbalist.
Right. But he understood the cure and what it was and how to solve it. But medicated everything at that time when you were younger.
Oh yes, so the cures were the brain, the sprain, the bumps, everything.
But you would have probably had to, or your family would have had to walk maybe 15, 20 miles to get to the doctor.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was. That's why probably there were so many local cures or local people that had the cure.
Of course they had, yeah. Of course they had. We never had it. You'd need to have pneumonia or something like that. That would get a doctor.
And of course animals were similar.
Yes, similar,
they've been so valuable, they would have had quite a few different complaints. I'm sure you heard or you witnessed animals being cured of.
That's right, black leg and red water and all that kind of thing. That's true.
Well, you've had a very interesting life, of course, and tragedy in the early part of your life, and so I thank you for talking to.
And I thank you very much too for allowing me the pleasure which I think always thought they owed it.
And of course, thanks to Jonn Clancy.
Jonn Clancy
behind the camera.
And
because
Brian
John was great support in organising the event this evening. And it's lovely to see you still in good health at 97 years of age. Of course, Ireland, a very, very changed country. What, maybe as a final thing, what would your view on modern Ireland be? Has it lost much? Has it gained much?
I think it's lost a bit. The health service now is poor here, for one thing, and a lot of homeless people walking their feet here, walking the streets. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that women and children are homeless. I think that's very wrong. It's a case of the haves and the have-nots. I find it here.
And of course, you're now living in Dublin, on the southern side of Dublin, and you probably, if you travel into shopping or wherever you might go, you probably witness those type of things, and you feel that in if you want to call it modern Ireland, with practically no, the figures are practically no unemployment in the country, you feel that Ireland should be a lot better too.
It should be, yeah. It should be. I think there's something wrong in this country. There's something wrong. I don't think the government is strong enough. Either of the governments, doesn't matter whose government was them, not strong enough. I don't think the health service should be like that at the moment. And that people, the men and women, as I said before, walking the streets, homeless people. I don't think they should be. That's not right. I don't know. I can't imagine how is it so many people, homeless people, walking the streets? How come?
And you still have the passion to go out and vote. Of course, everybody now with all the commemorations that's going ahead now, people are sort of looking back at a time when Ireland was different and they had to fight for their independence and the fight for the vote and everything. Yeah, do you still exercise your vote, or do you feel that?
No, not the last couple of years. No, I don't vote. No, I don't vote anymore. And it's just, you have to say, but without walking for him, it's not ideal if you're going to go out for voting, you know.
And it's not out of despair, but it's just out of
Oh no, not out of no, I think they could improve things, definitely. I think they could improve, and they should.
And if you had one final thing to say, because as you know, we're a live web TV channel, and this video will be viewed worldwide. Is there anything that you'd like to say to viewers that would have travelled, Irish people that would have travelled all over the world, in your experience, 97 as we said, is there any final thing that you'd like to say to people to give them hope, to give them encouragement, or something that just finally that you'd like to say to our viewers?
Well, I'm looking forward to the day that things will improve here, that there will be employment for everybody. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much for contributing to our News and Views programme, and of course we have to wish you every good health, and we hope that you'll be around to receive the cheque from our president.
Oh, I doubt that. But however, thank you very much anyway for calling, and thanks to Jonn Clancy and Brian Clancy and all. It's very nice of you to call in very kindly, and it's a pleasure for me. I take great pleasure in saying the few words what I have to say and clarifying it and what I think it should be, how different it should be.
Hi from New York.
Hi from Dublin. Greetings from Dublin.